you can only be taught that God is love to some degree for so long, and then try to reconcile it with eternal torment, and then your brain starts blowing up. A method is chosen, and that is okay, become an atheist, which I did. So I had my arguments against the existence of God, and he was rather skillful in using his logic. He was a very logical-minded guy, and he kept backing me into corners I couldn't get out of logically.
So at that point, are you legitimately considering this as a possibility of reality?
What be the possibility?
That this kingdom could actually come into existence. So at that point, you before you joined the Jehovah's Witnesses, he's pretty much convinced you that God is an existing entity.
No, I don't know that he convinced me.
Do you remember the point at which you actually became reconvinced that God existed again?
No, there's no point. It's too broad. It's too broad of a time span because there's a lot of education in the process here. I had to go through the whole evolution thing. Okay. So a lot of things to deal with. There's no point.
No specific point. It's just kind of a blended time period in which you kind of became reconvinced that God existed. You became intrigued with this notion of a non-human led government, and you just became more knowledgeable about the concepts that he was espousing. Pretty much. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I had to test out the Bible. I mean, all his stuff is based on that. I had to do a whole lot of study into that to see if, like, the Genesis account with the ages, begats. Okay. Well, this didn't seem reasonable. The 930 years for Adam and other time spans is similar like that. It's like somebody messed with the calendar or changed the clocks. I don't know. I did start doing calculations. Months, maybe. It can't be months. Months. There's not enough months for an age. It's too many years, not enough months. Well, okay, then what else could there be? I don't know. I've charted it out. I get it. I put it, make my own graph, a chart. Adam, Enoch, Methuselah, blah, 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 down the line. Get all the numbers, put them down there, and make a chart, a graph, and it ends up being a curve, like just. And I got the dates, the time spans. And it's like, oh, they were all like this much, and then we got to the flood, and then we got this big drop off, and then it levels out. This is a huge chunk of information for me. It starts making logical sense. The flood, as the Bible describes it, can easily give you an understanding of a severe climactic change, which could easily account for the lifespan differences. I mean, we know now we have UV rays, gammas, and all that other kind of stuff. And so all this is part of the process. Each one of these is a step to dealing with these things, is find out whether or not this is something I can actually put, let's say, scientific kind of faith in. Make sense?
Modestly. Okay. I can work with it. At any point, did you ever just sit down and read the Bible from cover to cover in this beginning process, or afterwards?
I started reading the Bible as a young child, as a Catholic.
Oh, you did as a child, as a Catholic, okay.
Yeah, but I didn't get too far with it.
On a side question,
I have to finish it there. I have read it through cover to cover, one full time, and in a different kind of order, at least another time, and by all various studies, probably the equivalent of a third, piecemeal. But so at least I would say 2 times through.
Were the Jehovah's Witnesses encouraging of that, and in your early stage of conversion?
Well, which you're not going to become one of Jehovah's Witnesses if you don't. You're just not going to do it. I don't think. I can't imagine anybody doing it. If there is, it could be a rare individual, but this is the authority for all their beliefs. And theoretically, it's the authority for all Christian religions' beliefs. But it's the reality is you can see too easily that it's not true for them. I mean, we did door-to-door activity. I've had conversations with a lot of different kind of people. Some of them priests, and other people who are quite knowledgeable about that and other things.
Mm-hmm.
The level of education of the Bible of your average Christian, of any, taken as a whole, as an aggregate, it's pretty weak. There's some denominations that do better, obviously. Catholics weren't one of them. Catholics were actually, in their history, sometimes anti-Bible.
Yes, I can see that. So how old are you? Or, yeah, let's ask that question. How old are you when you become fully accepting of the Jehovah's Witness doctrine and you're saying to yourself, I'm ready to become one of these people?
Well, it would be after Jill and Kim were born. So how old is Jill? Or
Sure.
Kim? How old is Kim?
I don't know.
40, 42 maybe, or maybe a little more.
Okay. Let's say around
I
that.
don't know what was. I'm not sure. Now we got to do math. Maybe that's not the way to do it. I was married in what, 75? So she's at least, we're in Houston, 5 years. Probably about shortly after they were born. So let's just say 76, 77. So how many years is that? 30, 33 plus 50, 4 years or so. How old are you?
35.
20 years before you were born.
20 years. Wow. Yeah, you spent 20 years in the organization.
That doesn't seem right. I think I got my math wrong. Well, maybe not.
75 was about 10 years before I was born.
Okay.
So about 10 years.
Somewhere in that area.
Okay. And I think you were around like 30 when I was born, right?
That's probably right. Well, Karen and I were married technically for like 7.5 years.
So you're probably
So that puts us like 82, and you were born in what, 85?
Yeah. So we're talking still in your 20s when you become a Jehovah's Witness. Maybe even early 20s.
85, you were born. I was born in 53. That's 32 years. So yeah, early 30s.
Okay. Yeah, math. All right. Okay. Was there any point in that time, is there any instances or incidents that you can think of that ever made you doubt or question your loyalty to the Jehovah's Witnesses before my birth?
Well,
Activity in the organization, perhaps, that something of that nature.
oh, well, no, but I have to qualify this. I never had any loyalty per se to the Jehovah's Witnesses. the relationship is with God, and then you get all these. You get all these brothers and sisters. Uh, let's think of them as cousins, nephews, and aunts and uncles. You not everybody in your family is perfect. In fact, none of them are, but some of them are the kind you'd rather not talk about. So you're always going to get somebody there, and those kind of things can affect you personally, and you can question things because of that. Um, I didn't do that too much. I mean, you can be disturbed when somebody in your organization or you whatever, it ends up being a black eye for yourself and everybody in the community. But no, no, wasn't loyal to Jehovah's Witnesses. It was loyal to Jehovah.
Okay. So for you, it wasn't so much about the religion itself; it was more about your relationship with God. So let me zoom back in more on you and get a little bit more detailed on your theology, real quick, and just kind of get an idea. So, is as succinctly as possible, without being too general, can you define to me what is God?
I don't know what you mean. Do you mean the definition of the word God? I can't tell you his nature, obviously.
Well, I mean, not the definition of the word, because then we could get into like all the different things that have ever been considered a god ever. What is the God that you believe is God? What is that thing?
Well, the simple answer is creator
Creator.
and sustainer.
Of what? Of
Everything.
existence, of
Yes,
reality, of the
yes,
universe,
yes,
time.
yes. Everything. Yeah, the motivating power within the atom and whatever's smaller than that, and the overall governance of the physical laws.
I need you to be
This
careful. I need you to be very thoughtful here. I mean, so,
okay.
so I'm going to hold you to account
Ooh,
at some point. I need you to really think about it. Like when I ask you, is God the creator of time? That means a lot. There's a lot of baggage in that one sentence. Does God
wow!
create time?
You really put it on me.
There's a lot of baggage in that one sentence because like
Well,
that's one of my biggest arguments against God. God is
I
not
don't know.
even in existence, but as even a logical concept. To me, the idea of something existing outside of time and having thoughts to be able to think, to plan, to consider, to do anything that's even remotely mind like is completely logically incoherent to me. I don't think that anything that even remotely resembles what we call a mind can be atemporal, logically speaking, because time is required for change, for action potentials to move from one place to another, for anything to think.
Okay. Well, so when we have now, we're going to use two times. We're going to have two times to talk about. There's going to be your and my time, physical world time. Okay. And then there's going to be God time.
Okay, so we can have a macro time, if you will, right? But to create time itself is
I
different,
don't. I
right?
think that's a
So we're saying
misnomer.
God, time is not created by God. He is just more of like a shaper of time.
I don't
Like
know. I don't know that time has any real existence whatsoever, except as a concept. Time is a to me is it's a measure. Like there is no such thing as a minute, but we do have devices that can calibrate to a certain segment of existence and coordinate it so we can all have the same idea of this reference and call it a minute.
right. But there
Okay,
is a such thing as a difference between the way things were this what we call minute and the next minute, right? So is there such thing as the difference between the way God was planning one moment of before he was planning the Big Bang and the next moment before he was planning the Big Bang? That makes sense.
That don't make no sense. I don't know. I think there's just so many things that we can get into on this whole concept of time, and I think if only one I want to point out now is you and I as human beings are very conscious of time for a lot of reasons, but the main one is, the death issue. So the minutes end up being rather large to us. They tick off very fast.
But it's also important because with the concept of time being taken off the table entirely as even nothing more than just a man-made concept, then we take off. Don't we also diminish God's ability to see possibilities in the future?
Diminish God's possibilities to see the future.
In essence, his forethought, his divine forethought, his ability to process future events in a divine way. If he can't do that, if there is no real time aspect of reality.
I don't know. I think I have two things to say here. I don't know why you would want to mess with this stuff, and why is it part of this particular conversation?
You're right. Okay, let's move on. Okay.
Good.
Well, I just want to get like your whole philosophy, and I'm sorry I shouldn't have derailed it by interjecting myself into it.
I forgive you.
I shouldn't have interjected myself into it.
No, I
So
forgive you. It's not that I need to forgive you. I mean, it's not a problem. So you were going for history.
well, I want to
And
no, not
we
history. I
got
want you now, as you stand today, after the Jehovah's Witnesses, because you're not in there anymore, right?
No, I'm not. But it's not because of them. Should we deal with that?
Yeah, let's deal with that.
Let's deal with
Why
that.
aren't you with the Jehovah's Witnesses anymore?
Um, because I uh, I didn't want to. I didn't want to be. I didn't want to stay in there while I was failing as a human being. Now, I'm going to make excuses for a divorce between your mom and me, but quite frankly, what's that got to do with anything? Uh, I just didn't. I just couldn't live by the structure anymore.
Did they ever?
I got.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Did they ever move to disfellowship, or what is it? What is it?
No.
Is that the excommunication level stuff?
Yeah, the parallel term is disfellowship,
Okay.
which is different in that excommunication means the church uh, throws you out. Disfellowship is more like you've placed yourself in a position where we can no longer fellowship with you. That's not irreversible. I don't know if excommunication is or not. I don't feel like it is, but I could be wrong. But disfellowshipping is just basically we can't have fellowship with you anymore. But there's an alternative as well that could be done, and that's disassociation, which is where the individual takes the initiative to separate themselves, which is what I did.
Okay. So you disassociated yourself.
Right.
Okay.
And that's not irreversible either.
Do you ever consider going back?
I've considered many things. Many things. That's one of them.
That is one of them. Recently?
Yeah. Well, within a few years, perhaps. I don't know.
Okay.
Many times over the years.
Don't you think that it's unfortunate that in the moments when you might have needed your community and support the most, the moments when you're failing, when you're actively most in need of the support of your community, that's the moments when you felt like you needed to turn away from them?
I got great support from the community during
Even
both divorces. Karen's, which was really a tough one. That was a killer.
why did you
I had
feel like you needed to turn away?
I got tired. I got worn down. Life was just beating the hell out of me too much now, and I just wanted to go another way.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, the only thing I was really doing differently was I took up smoking again, and that's not something that they work with anymore since about 1975, I think, or somewhere in that area. They put that on the list of things that they consider.
Variant behavior.
Yeah, yeah, it's like deliberately damaging your body, and I don't know that that you got to figure these guys were around since like the 1870s. So for 100 years, smoking was not an issue. Maybe it was somewhat colored by the Surgeon General and all the other different kind of things going on, or changes in what's in in your tobacco. But anyways, that's they adopted that. I went back to smoking.
Okay.
I got to live. I don't want to get too personal on here, but the liberation from the marriage with your mom was like getting out of jail. So what do you do when you get out of jail? I know what I did. I went for a nice steak dinner, a couple of beers or whatever, and a cigar, and I just cook up cigars. So basically, I felt I was released from jail, but not the jail was not the jailers were not the Jehovah's Witnesses.
I got you. That's
And but
fine.
but my true jailer, if I can use that term, was a Jehovah's Witness. It happens to be my wife.
Hey, that's fine. But I do want to just a little bit more. I want to understand your theology still. Um, so now, what is your idea of hell?
Well, the term translated into English is hell, which I think is of a Germanic kind of origin, uh, which means to put things in the ground, helling potatoes like a root cellar,
Mm-hmm.
or you bury somebody in the ground. The term that comes from Greek is Hades, seems to be corresponding closely to hell in some regards. Of course, there's mythical stuff with Hades, so that you got to be careful your understanding there. But the better term is from the Hebrew, the Sheol. Sheol is the common
Grave.
grave of mankind. So this is this is what hell is to our understanding. You put something in the ground, you bury it, and you're in the earth. You're in hell. You're that's it, in the grave. The grave is the best English term to translate. Hell is the grave.
So when
So
someone dies, are they in? They're just dead, like the Jehovah's Witnesses believe, and then they just don't exist at that time. Is that right?
right, yes, that for the vast majority of human existence, that would be the exact case.
And then they may or may not be resurrected.
Right.
You believe in the resurrection still?
Yes.
Um,
But it's a special act. It's got to be something that's performed by an outside agency.
Non-believers are not resurrected.
Oh, I wouldn't say that.
They are resurrected.
I think you're going to find. that not only Jehovah's Witnesses but other religions, including the Catholics, speak of the Catholics call it the general resurrection. That's where basically all mankind is emptied out of death. To whatever, I don't want to get too much into the theology of what happens with them, but there is supposedly, per the Bible and various religious beliefs, is a general resurrection. That the death is not, it's a prison of, but there's an end to that sentence, if you will. It's not a prison in the sense of torture, but it's a prison. It's a prison in the fact that you're locked in it. You're in the grave. But everybody can come out, and everybody will come out.
Everybody, every living human that ever lived, even for a moment, will be resurrected.
Well, I think, yeah, probably just going to have to say, yeah. What does it mean? Just what's involved in all that?
That's fine.
Sure.
Do you believe? So you believe that Jesus is coming back to bring forth his kingdom and fulfill prophecy?
Yes.
And when he said to the disciples in the Bible that some of them would not die before he fulfilled that prophecy, how do you reconcile that?
Well, this is a thing, a theme of what you find in the biblical writings is there's multiple levels of application. There's things that happen in the immediate. There's things that happen in the near term, and then there's things that happen in the long term, and the languages used that we say talk about those events. It has these different levels involved in them. So some things are true immediately, but not in the big scale. If Jesus says the kingdom of God is among you, in one regard, him being the king, or the king designate, if you will, he's there. Now, the actual functioning of the kingdom in an earthly governmental sense is not in place yet. That's obviously a long-term thing. And then there's other things that could be medium-term things. So the same statement can have several layers of application.
I see.
Okay.
Okay. Let me think. So nobody is in heaven with God. No human souls are in heaven with God right now, except for like those two in the Bible.
Who are the two?
So they
Enoch?
And there was one more, right? Or was it just Jesus?
Yeah, well, I don't want to get into Enoch too much. I'm
just saying, that except for those two obvious exceptions, no other humans are in heaven, right? That's what you believe?
I'm gonna say yes for the purpose of our conversation. But if you want to get into other understandings by the Jehovah's Witnesses about when that kingdom gets established and when some are resurrected to heaven to participate in this heavenly government, we'd have to say that it's quite possible that some of that may have already taken place.
Do you have any idea when the end times will really kick into gear?
No, that's a nasty question because it's something everybody wants to know about, and many have speculated and tried to calculate through all time. I mean, it goes way back, and there's a keen interest in it, especially you get to days like we have now. I mean, some people think that the United States' existence is threatened. Well, if that should happen if we actually go out of existence as what we are. You can imagine a rather nasty scenario for the world of mankind. So whatever apocalyptic scenario is due to play out from the scriptures, whatever that might mean, Armageddon or the kingdom or whatever, you kind of want to believe. If we can't hold on, then I sure hope that's our next alternative. You know what I mean? So it's possible that some of the things have already taken place. We may be really near to it, or maybe we're not as near as we think.
What must someone do to be saved?
Well, it's kind of not really the kind of thing I can answer. I can just offer examples of things that tell me that door is really wide open. I can't judge anybody, you know what I mean? But the guy hanging on the stake next to Jesus, he got consideration for something. Okay, I don't want to get into the definition of what he got, but he's given consideration for something. He's got a shot beyond just going to the grave. You know what I'm saying? So, and what, he didn't live a life as a Christian at all. He did live it as a thief and whatever else, and from a human standpoint, we would be hard pressed to say this guy deserves any consideration, but he got it. So I'm confident that whatever it is, the Creator's gonna. What is it? What does it serve him to condemn people? There's no value. He certainly doesn't need so many followers on Facebook to achieve something that's important. Okay, there's going to be millions or billions, whatever it is, and it's no skin off his nose if they don't participate. But at the same time, it's no benefit to him to have to eliminate people. So I think the doors are wide open.
Okay.
I don't.
What would it take for you to stop believing in it?
Well, somebody'd have to come up with a better alternative.
A better alternative.
Yeah, better or more logical or something.
What does that mean? Better alternative? A better explanation for existence, or like a more appealing story?
Well, there are more appealing stories, perhaps, or at least things that can compete. I mean, reincarnation has always been a rather intriguing idea to me. In fact, I've had various times in my life when I've imagined different scenarios other than the Orthodox Christian or the Jehovah's Witnesses scenarios or the atheist scenarios. And I could easily picture a situation where when I die, I end up, let's say, in front of the pearly gates, just to use the common metaphor, and Peter says, it's instead of judging me, as a good or bad, he says, like, all right, it's your time to pick your new life. You're going to be reincarnated back into, you get to pick your time and place. Maybe I get to pick a few other things like gender or maybe skill set. To me, it's like maybe you're playing the video game and you died and you get to respawn. So, that's a rather appealing concept to me. I thought, you know what, I should really just have something in mind prepared, just in case it works out that way. I don't think it's realistic, but just in case, maybe I'd like to go back to like 1776 and so.
Well, what's realistic, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm not convinced yet that everything we're talking about is a total waste of time and that this whole thing is just a computer simulation. I'm an icon on somebody's screen. in a really realistic, what do you call the real player games?
You're not convinced.
Not 100%.
Well, 99%.
I don't know that I could. I'm too open-minded about things anymore. This is another reason why I can't necessarily go back to Jehovah's Witnesses. It's just I love the people. I love to be there. There's times when I selfishly think, I've actually thought of maybe I should go back to the Catholic Church just because, they can drink and smoke and I can hang out with people and play bingo. That's not the worst thing in the world. But I think I'd feel a little bit too much like a hypocrite doing that. But then I'd feel like a hypocrite going back to the witnesses too. I mean, now I feel like I would be doing it for personal something or other. I don't know if I'd be willing to feel honest about my contributions versus what I'm receiving. So I don't know, but no, I've had my mind flipped around way too many times to take such a strong percentage, 90-something percentage. I'm just convinced of one thing, that there is a creator, whether he's a computer programmer or he's a heck of an artist and engineer, or if it's just some kind of ethereal thing floating around on a cloud. I'm sure there's something. I see mind in all existence. That's where you and I have a big issue. I see mind in everything.
I just can't see it.